Good afternoon from the West Side.
Hey. She over there, West Side.
I can't help it. It's the LA in me.
Oh my gosh. In LA, it's the
Um,
place to be.
I mean, I mean, I feel like all the places are places to be in the
Mhm.
moment.
Oh my gosh. Yes, thank you for joining.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to come on and spend time with you and also our followership. Like I'm really excited to be here with you.
Sure. I'm excited as well, and we're pleased to have you. It's an honor to have you here. And I call this Lessons with Liminal Terminal.
I like this one. It feels like a series, FYI. Like I was just thinking that.
Now, honestly, I don't know what is liminal terminal? Where did that come from?
Okay. Before we hop right into it, I just wanted to light some incense. Is that
Oh,
cool? I'm gonna set like a vibe. I
yeah,
would I've
yeah,
already pre-done it, but we
set the
here now.
mood right.
Let me just
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
um okay.
Hmm.
So liminal is kind of like the space between.
Okay.
Um, think of it as the dark amenta,
Hmm.
um, like the consciousness, that void.
Hmm.
That is that liminal space. It's a space, and it's a place where you can like where you travel through, so to speak. But I like to think of it as the dark amenta. Amenta can also be the womb. It can also be um, dream space. This is the mind. It's like the space in between.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we kind of model it like that?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that is the liminal space. Yeah.
The space in between. Okay. I got a vision of have you ever read the Harry Potter books?
Yes, actually, I did all of them twice.
All of them twice. She says, "Whoa, oh snap!" So, so you remember, Yasmin? There was to get to Hogwarts, they had to go to a train station and go to platform 9 3/4. 9 3/4. So it was the space between,
Space between.
and it transported them to a mystical place, a magical place in the beyond, but they had to get to it in the space between. You know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
A great example of the liminal space.
Okay.
It's like this little. It's a vast space, but it's the window to get in is just very small. Um, and I don't know, we can talk about this space in multiple contexts, meditation,
Yeah.
sitting with plant medicines when you're moving through that space.
Mm.
Um, yeah, the liminal space. It's a very it feels good when you get there for sure. It's like you're finally like shedding what keeps you grounded, which is like the body and the identity, the ego, right? You're shedding that, and you're finally like into that liminal space. So yeah, that's that for me. But definitely great example for that.
Okay, and when it comes to meditation and even plant medicines, that experimentation, are these methods that crack open that window to the liminal space?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many modalities, right? Like there's so many, I call them entry points.
Mm.
Yeah, these are all just entry points. Yeah.
Hmm.
And going into that space can be kind of scary.
Mm.
It's unfamiliar, uncertain, uncharted territory. If you think about like our souls leaving our body, like we're already afraid of like death, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like, oh, I don't want to go to that space because I don't know what does it mean. So yeah, it can be really scary, but those are different entry points to getting into that space. Yeah,
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that breakdown.
yeah.
Thank
Good question.
Yeah, these are great things for us to know because, I didn't even know, like sometimes the mind, and especially the logical mind, the analytical mind, kind of like the left brain, wants to figure out a way to grasp the ungraspable, you know,
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
know the unknowable, and describe the almost indescribable. But you broke it down. You were able to describe it. You,
Yeah. I think we find ourselves at a really important time in history. Um, Actually, I mean, all points are important, but um, at this current point, we are starting to find more language to describe these understandings and these like innate knowings that we've all been like just like all kind of connected to like, oh, I know this thing is going on, but I don't have the words to describe this feeling.
mm,
And now we're starting to identify, oh, this kind of this language, this terminology really does a good job of defining this thing that I'm experiencing. And so across the board in different spaces, we're starting to actually have the language to build models of understanding that we can like meet at, aka Harry Potter and that platform, right? That's like a model of understanding.
mm,
So yes, it's nice to have words for these things to explain them and to share it, these ideas and concepts with everybody.
yeah,
With
I agree. I agree. And when it came to that fear, that, like you said, Yasmin, it prevails, you know, in the populace today,
Mhm.
the fear of dying. Do you feel that you still have that fear today, or had you shed that at some point?
I don't think it goes away.
Okay.
I don't
Why?
think. Uh, like there's layers to this shit. There's layers to like all the things.
Mm,
And when it comes to death, like the body can't help itself but protect itself from dying. Like this is a human function that we have like had since the beginning of our species,
mm,
right? To protect the body. Something traumatic happens, I form a memory, and now I want to protect my body from experiencing that thing again.
mm,
So, or also just like a computer program that says, like, hey, like, I don't want to die. I don't
mm,
want to die. So that's very much, I think, the body's reaction, regardless.
mm,
I think consciousness and awareness is what brings the, you know what? I want to see what's over this on the other side of this fear. So let me go. Let me go find out. Um, I think growing up, they always used to say curiosity killed the cat.
mm-hmm.
Right? And so, of course, so we don't go being curious because we don't want to die.
Yeah.
But turns out there's more to that saying.
Mm,
Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to go find out. And turns out I can come back and if it was great, I'm gonna come back.
mm-hmm.
And I think that's why the idea of reincarnation or just the souls living on past the body
Mm,
feels good. It feels right.
yeah. Yeah.
It feels right. Now I don't have to be afraid. Like my awareness, like my the one that's managing and taking care of this body, the actual like soul, not the physical body that's trying to protect me, that one that's like handling like the, hey, let's go here, let's go there. That one can finally be like, okay, I'm not afraid. And this feeling that I'm feeling is just a body experience. Let me give it the comfort it needs, give it the support it needs to feel safe to finally go and do the thing. So, in meditation or even with plant medicines, there's this period where like your body starts to fidget.
Mm,
You're meditating and you feel like an itch or whatever, right? Your body's trying to like, hey, like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? So, we do things to make the body feel safe. And this also corresponds to like our lower three chakras, which is very much the physical, the body, right? The root chakra, your sacral, and then your solar plexus, right? These are all associated with things kind of like with safety for security, right? And when you can make those three centers feel secure, you can finally move that energy up to the heart through the throat. If you want to blast off and go to where you're trying to go, it just takes making those centers feel secure. And I think that going back to the question, does that fear ever go away? It doesn't, but there are things you can do to help support the body in the letting go process, the releasing of control. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think it really ever goes away.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that perspective. I love examining these things in new ways and fresh, it's very refreshing to hear. And also when we're transcending these fears just, or the nature of it, just looking at it from a different viewpoint, from a different vantage or a different angle, it's very eye-opening and very illuminating. And I love what you said, Yasmin, about curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. So what do you feel has been in life one of your most satisfying curiosities?
Oh, I think I have very many that I really enjoy. These like core memories of finally looking past the thing holding me back. Um, two particularly stand out with me, and that's anytime I'm working with these plant medicines. I specifically work with psilocybin, building a relationship with that for the past, I mean, past 12 years, but in a healing and with more cultural relevance and context, at least within the past 3 years. And when I finally took more to see what was on the other side, I understood. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep coming back. I'll go through that shit to get here because this is actually pretty cool. Because it's in that space where we create, where we can not even take, where we can connect with these ideas and concepts and things that want to go from that liminal space and be brought down into physical reality. So think of an artist tapping into that field and then finally bringing that art concept back on paper, and then now we see some this masterpiece that was created from that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the ascending part, but then also remembering to also descending is also just important as the ascension.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very important. And I'll probably dive deeper into that later on with other questions. Something that's really important to me. But that working with plant medicines really showed me that there's nothing to be afraid of. And then also the birth of my daughter.
Oh.
Uh, that was an eye opener because this world, Hollywood, other parents kind of like scare us into not having kids. I think I was working with kids when I was younger, right out of high school, and parents would always make this joke like, "Oh, this is great birth control, huh?" And I'm just like, "Yeah," but also these kids were actually pretty cool. But they would make this joke like it's parenthood or the birthing process is scary, right? Hollywood, oh, screaming woman, this baby, oh, uh, surgery, like there's like a lot of things to be afraid of. But I found myself in a really unique position when I set myself up somehow to just have this pregnancy that had this beautiful flow to it, that none of the things that people said about pregnancy, I didn't experience that. I think I maybe had like one day of like nausea, um, Like I looked great. I didn't like and get inflated. Like I was also um in a like a personal spiritual like isolation to really nurture the mindset that I wanted to go into when birthing, because I knew um I was going to do a water birth.
Mm,
I knew that that was going to happen.
mm,
And in going to the doctors, they still, fear, hey, anemia, blah, 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 all these things. And then I finally get to the birth experience and psh, easy.
yeah.
Easy. I trusted my body. I knew that I just needed to like lock in and get into the zone, right? Um, and my body did what it needed to do. It felt good to trust. It felt good to release my control. I will say there were painful parts, but even the pain, like it was easy, easy, easy. And it sucks because a lot of women don't get to experience this. And I even have, hesitation in sharing my experience with other mothers and those who have had who are about to go through the process or whatever. But the hesitation comes from um, not wanting to make someone else's experience that wasn't that great feel like, I don't know. There's like I have some shyness around sharing it because I don't want to take up space with this like experience I have. But then also it would be beautiful to let other women and other men know that these experiences are not something to be afraid of and that you got this. Yeah. So those are two points for me that like when finally seeing what's on the other side, I was like, okay, I have nothing to be afraid of anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So you said plant medicine and also the birth of your daughter.
Yeah.
Those were really powerful, experiences that allowed you to go beyond, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That birth portal is very, very powerful. Um, can be very out of body experience. With all the right elements in the space, for everyone who knows like what's up, um, it's like a meditative experience. It's like, people talk about the Merkaba, people talk about like it's just the same in its own, but it's its own portal. These are like different portals, entry points.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about the Merkaba the other week when we were in a session. We were in another live and you actually joined us, me and Beata.
Yeah.
Beata Wara, she's in Africa now, but she was in Chicago when we were talking. And
Yeah.
you were asking about that meditation. Do you remember like what piqued your curiosity when it came to that?
Because yes, I did. Beautiful listening to Beata. So thankful that she gave me words for what I was experiencing. Um, so my reality had already been cropping up. Merkaba, what is the Merkaba? What is that? The shape? It's the two dot,
It's like
right?
that pyramid, the almost
The
like the Star of David, kind of.
star. Yes. Okay. So we'll go with that. So the Star of David symbols started cropping up for me.
Mm,
And one of the beautiful things in my journey, or doing the work, is this understanding that the universe likes to talk in symbols.
mm,
Um, I knew that this was something I needed to learn about. Like, hey, like it was cropping up. I saw a video. I saw like I'm seeing this symbol everywhere, and I'm like, okay, what is this? And so I didn't know, but I had a few dreams or like falling asleep where I was doing the spinning thing. I was
mm,
doing the spinning thing. And
mm,
then finally releasing into this like liminal space, the dark amenta.
mm,
Consciousness finally being in that womb. It's a very comforting space. Even though it's just empty, it's a very comforting space. Like it felt really good to get there.
mm,
And yeah, like that, it kept coming up, and finally listening with Beata, I know what it's called. Oh, it's the Merkaba is, um, you'll know it when you're having this experience. And
Mm.
so again, going back to the language, like it feels so good to have a word to describe what it is and what I'm learning at this point in my journey, that we all have these abilities and it's up to us to, nourish them,
Mm.
grow them, strengthen them. What kind of life do I want to live? And it includes doing that kind of work because that kind of work is pretty fun.
Yeah, and just, you know, when we're just exploring, like exploring consciousness in this way. Earlier, you said something that I love. You kind of painted a picture when you illustrated how even an artist or a painter themselves can bring an idea or bring something from that infinite, that darkness,
Mhm.
that space, and bring it to life, on the canvas. I was driving a passenger for Lyft, and they were telling me that Jackson Pollock, Jackson Pollock?
No, but the name sounds familiar. But also, I went to someone went to high school with someone with the same last name, so it could be that. But who is Jason Pollock?
Well, Jackson Pollock, or like Action Jackson. Jackson Pollock was one of those artists that was doing things that were really like, people really had their own interpretations of his art. And to maybe just an onlooker, somebody just looking at and examining his paintings, it looked like just splotches and drippings and just a whole bunch of stuff just kind of thrown on the canvas, just almost like he just took a paintbrush and was like flicking it or dripping it or however. But in his mind, he saw a vision of what he wanted, and they said that he would be meticulous about getting it just right. And if it didn't match his vision, even if it took him like months and weeks to make this painting, he would burn it. He would set it on fire. Yeah, he was that dedicated to like making it just right from what he saw in that liminal space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um, yeah. These ideas and concepts that we bring from these spaces, they are their own entities.
Mm.
I want, at least I want to acknowledge them as that,
Mm.
because um, just like a baby, like I believe that my child chose me.
Mm.
She is this thing in this like liminal space, and then I was doing the work. I was, working on my health and all these things, the ascension process. Yeah.
Mm.
And I was so open that I was ready to receive.
Mm.
And she chose me.
Mm.
Um, a business idea. You have this business idea that you keep seeing in your head, and you're just like, this is like a really good thing to do. Like, let's go for it. So we go into that space. It's actually a collective space,
Mm.
and we, bond with these ideas that also choose us. Hey, I want to come into fruition through you. And now we're taking these concepts and ideas, and I don't know what the relationship also is in that space, whether it's like your own creation or is it like itself like there's a lot of like fuzzy there that I don't know the truth with when it comes to. But what does feel right is that there is a relationship, and that it's choosing, because it's choosing you, like, hey, I want to come through you to exist in this reality. We could say that with like all kinds of TV shows, and just like all kinds of different things that come through from this space. There's like a bond that happens, and we ascend, and then we finally bring it back down to be birthed into this 3D reality. We are creators.
Mm.
Yeah, we are divine. We're accessing this like space, and we're like bringing it back to be like, hey, look, world, look at this thing that I made.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love this, and Yasmin, as you speak, I can't help but ask, when we're looking at ideas as like disembodied entities, entities that are choosing you, they're coming to you to be given life. They want you to birth them or to give them life. If you don't give life to that idea or to that entertaining of that entity, do they then fly away to someone else who is ready to give them life?
Okay, so this is where we can talk about collective consciousness.
Okay.
Okay, so I like to think of collective consciousness as also the space in between. Um, it is when you think of birds flying in unison or fish swimming like perfectly in unison, right? We actually know, like birds, we know it's not radar that they're communicating with each other. There's something in between that they all kind of just know, and they move, right? They move in unison. Okay. So and so going back to collective consciousness, I think I saw this very clearly during quarantine, like right when everyone closed everything. I'd say a few months before that, like I already knew something was telling me, hey, you got to be ready by February. Like you got to be ready, good to go by February. This is February. This was like 2000, late 2018, going into, was it 2019? I forgot the year, but anyway, it said, oh, by February, be ready. And at that time, I was trying to figure out ways to have streams of income to support and myself, to live, to do something. I was in the middle of creating something for myself. And I was one of the people that was like, OnlyFans, but not porn. Let me figure out the use of OnlyFans for something else. And I didn't end up pursuing that, but there was so many people who did,
Mm-hmm.
that made something of that space to have some kind of income stream. There's one of my favorite, the Hood Healer on Instagram. She ended up monetizing her platform and went on to OnlyFans, and now all the people who are into her divination and you know, all her whatever she does, like they went and followed her there, and she was able to take that concept, that idea, and make it into something. So there's that part. So yes, I think these ideas do find a way to come through,
Mm-hmm.
however it's meant to. Uh,
Wow.
then the parts that like maybe, because there's another side of this, you know, when you're not doing the, hey, like, okay, I'm gonna bring it and create it. When you're not doing that, right? You said like, does it go on to the next person? Um, I think there's another thing to note, that like, you know, if it's not in alignment from you for you, it's not in alignment. You're probably just tuned in to like collective consciousness, and it's like, hey, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
So alignment is another thing to reflect on when it comes to uh, your true nature.
Mm.
If you are not honoring the things that are trying to be like, hey, like, you know, you're an artist, you know, you want to sing and you're not singing, right? You know, these things, these things that want to come into fruition, um, there has to be also like a, sorry, I'm kind of all over the place on this because there's also a consent piece.
Mm-hmm.
There's a consent piece. Am I ready?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have the capacity? If I don't have a home, how can I focus on building a business? Right? I'm connected to this idea. I see this vision of a potential future for myself and this thing I want to create, this life I want to create. Um, but I don't think there is anything to feel bad about when these ideas move on to the next person, you could say. I don't think that's actually how it's happening. I think there's like a dance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a dance between because you can think about this in the same way as like birthing and women who are choosing not to become mothers, or choosing not to have the child and would like a pregnancy release, right? I have compassion because that's not an easy experience to have, but if it's not for you, it's not for you. I think so yeah, there's a really delicate dance of like what's happening there. So there's no need to like, oh shit, I didn't get that. I didn't catch that train. I didn't catch that ride. It's all good. It happened exactly how it was supposed to happen. And
Right.
you're just tuned in. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, so when somebody maybe is looking at, you know, an idea that someone has and they executed, like they took action on that idea, and they're looking at that and they're like, wait a minute, that was my idea. I thought of that like years ago. Are they really saying that wasn't their idea, but it was something that they tapped into in the collective consciousness?
Yeah. This it's so funny that you're bringing this up because I was transcribing a podcast that is coming out next week. I'll share it with you eventually. But there was a part in this podcast that was like um, the person who was speaking. Her name is Toy Smith. She's an amazing mother, amazing community organizer. I'm still getting to know her. This is my first window into her work. And so Toy Smith says like it's really hard to say like what is your own and what is built off of something else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I don't think anything is our own one thing because I think things also come into fruition to be experienced by those that are going to experience it, right? So there's like this like interconnectedness of all of it that it's like how can I say I own this concept or this concept when maybe I just actually have the words for it and somebody else who isn't in the same place just doesn't have the words for what they're experiencing.
Mm.
Yeah. Not just experiencing, because not just experiencing, but also the ideas and concepts for it. Like I think there's like a bunch of new words that I've been like learning about that I'm just like, oh, like I didn't know that there was an idea for this, but turns out there are other people before me who've been doing this work and I'm only now discovering their work. And it's like, oh shit, they had a word for it.
Right,
They had
right.
language for this. So I actually don't think anything is one person's like, well, oh, this is mine. I think that need to ownership, dominion, I think that comes from um, trying to control. This is what current systems in place taught us. Um, this need for like, oh, there's scarcity. There's so much scarcity, and now you have to be like, oh, this is mine, so I can monetize it for myself.
Right.
Right? I think that need to claim ownership comes from that place, and so that's where we ask ourselves, like, why? What is what is being triggered in me in relation to this that's keeping that story in place? Because this is also not mine. This is for the people. You could say electricity, the idea that wasn't for the person to just monetize. No, this is for all of collective consciousness. Will let spirit, everything that's within us was like, oh, I'm tired of being in the dark. Let
Mm.
me figure out a way to, oh, hey, here's this thing that can be done. And let me give this idea to someone. And that way everyone can have light now. So now we can experience light. So, so it's like, oh, they don't possess light. Like that person who, like, I just think the ownership thing really comes from a unaligned place. It comes from the programming of the systems in place that we are actually trying to liberate ourselves from. And it's a really delicate dance,
Mm.
but I don't think anyone has ownership over any particular concepts. I think it's meant for the collective.
Okay, okay. So everything is shared. Nothing is owned by the individual.
Nah. I mean, can you like you can only really say that about possessions. You can really only say that about possessions. Oh, I own this pen. Um, I can't say that about my daughter. I don't own my daughter. I am not her owner or her dominator or her controller. I am her steward. I'm here to support her on her journey. Right? This is not, she's not, we think of like birthing concepts, these ideas, bringing them into fruition. Like, I think those birthing, like, that's all pretty good model to explain what's happening. And I don't think there's any ownership of that. the idea of the pen, do you think the person who, like, do they own it? Like, do I have to pay that? Like,
Mm.
no, these things are for all of us, for our freedoms, for our freedom to just do, to just do, to just be, to
Yeah.
just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Thank
It's much more freeing, you know. It feels like freedom. Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's part of the liberation process.
Mm.
This is and this is not something that I am really good at with every day. These are also developing ideas that I'm still also developing habits and behaviors around, and my story around, so that now I can live like a more holonic, more holistic um, experience of life, and also share that with my community,
Mm.
share that with my web,
Yeah.
and modeling and embodying that now, because the best part about it is as soon as I start embodying it, I start seeing it out there
Mm. Yeah.
in a bigger scale,
Yeah.
bigger scale. And I think all of this combined is for our collective liberation.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like the macro models the micro, you know. Everything is everything. Everything is everything. So,
Hmm.
when it comes to your development and your learnings, earlier you were talking about those lower three chakras and feeling safe and secure in those lower three. What did you have to do to have that amount of safety and security in those lower three centers?
Okay. So I did a fast track.
Okay.
There are different entry points into this work. Very many, very many entry points. And you really got to just see like what is for you. Um, for me, it was plant medicines and it was meditation. The plant medicines came first. Um, we know now that the way psilocybin works in the brain helps with the neuroplasticity, helps you create new neural networks. In fact, it's actually helping select faster connections.
Mm,
Like it's finding faster ways to communicate. Your brain's finding faster ways to communicate with itself
mm,
through those neural networks. And this is because when we ingest psilocybin, we know that it shuts off our default mode network.
mm.
We can see this example in real life in Silicon Valley.
Okay.
There are coders that are using this medicine to code more efficiently and create better, like, because the brain will pick up things that you won't pick up as fast as the brain.
Okay.
So now your brain is communicating in novel, new ways, releasing old connections that had been ingrained over however long you've been alive. So working with a plant medicine, I didn't know this back then to this extent, but now I understand, okay, this is why the medicine called to me.
Mm,
I didn't say, oh, hey, I'm just gonna take medicine mushrooms for like, no, the medicine was saying, hey, like, I want to work with you.
mm.
You ready? Let's go.
It
Let's
came it came to you with a proposition.
the medicines, all these plants, all these things, they're asking to commune with you.
Okay.
It's all sacred.
Mm,
It's all fucking sacred. And it wants to commune with you, the divine, to be experienced. Oh, so the mushroom medicine was one way. And then I had a macro dose experience
okay.
where I had asked the medicine to understand more about my abilities. What
Okay.
are my abilities? I want more understanding. I want to just understand. Great experience, great macro experience. The next day during the afterglow, um, this was during quarantine. We were all locked down. I get a call from my cousin in Kansas, and she's like, Yazzie, I'm gonna be there in a few hours in Los Angeles. And I'm gonna drop something off at your house.
Mm,
We're just swinging by, and I'm like, what? Like, okay. So my cousin pulls up on me, drops a little bag at the bottom of my stairs, and I grab it. And the what she had given me was a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe. Like, he's like, that's fam to me, like, when it comes down to it. Some people have resistance to Dr. Joe, but he is also another entry point.
Mm.
There are other teachers like him, Wim Hof, Abraham Hicks. There's Dolores Cannon. Like, there's all these different peoples, right? I think part of the resistance also comes up, especially for ethnic non-white people, that the resistance comes up because, like, who are these people telling me about spirituality? Like, there's just like layers to the resistance. But uh Dr. Joe was going to be my entry point. The mushroom said, here, learn something. And that particular book specifically teaches about meditation, but it brings in other concepts to explain, like, yo, this is why you're doing it. And if you, like, this is what's happening. And if you do this, like, you're putting the connections in your head as to what is possible by diving into meditation. So that was what it was for me. It was a starting point. But also, it really just validated what I knew about spirituality growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a first gen Filipino Egyptian American, and I grew up with some spiritual practices that, like, me and my cousins were like, what is, but my mom, my grandparents, like, they had the altar, they had the, like, the prayers and the things that they would do. And that's because, they experienced something with those things. Me growing up American, it's like, oh, that's, I thought that's just woo woo. Fucking hate that word. That's just like their thing. Come to find out, reading Dr. Joe, it's like, oh, hey, there's science now that proves how all of this is possible. It doesn't even need to be explained. It just shows you what is possible, right? And that was all I needed to validate what I have known in my heart for so long. I thought I was so removed from these abilities. I thought I was so removed, but turns out we're not. We just got all of that programmed out of us by this Western colonized, like, all these different, just the perfect blend of shit to just make us forget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Dr. Joe is a great entry point if you want to just have some kind of foundation. Um, so those are the two things that I realized, okay, they work together. So I started working with the medicine. I started working with meditation. We know that meditation trains you to put your attention on what you want to put your attention on. And it's like your discipline, like teaching yourself discipline, right? There's layers. Meditation teaches so much. And there's so many different kinds of meditation that I think the original one that I had learned about growing up was, like, just passive meditation, where you just sit there. And so I'm thinking, like, oh, that's what it is. Turns out I had been meditating my whole life. My who had taught me this prayer.
Mm-hmm.
When they go into prayer, that's meditation.
Yeah.
That's connecting with the divine. They just didn't have these concepts to validate what they knew, but they already knew it. So those, I would say, are the two tools that I use to really optimize and, like, skip through and get to this point where I'm at now. Um,
Okay.
there is no ending point. There's constant just growth, learning, integrating that knowing, and embodying it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's just this continuous cycle. But I would say those were the two things that fast tracked me.
Okay.
And I want to give a moment also to the trauma that I had experienced that was a catalyst
Mm.
in moving into moving into this knowing, moving into this work. Um, trauma is a big I don't even have the words for this. Trauma is a great way to realign. I was not in alignment. I was making decisions out of desperation. I was making decisions, and then I had an experience that set me on course. Um, yeah, I want to give a moment to that trauma because I think that's where we can find some peace with these things that we are experiencing that are stressful, these things in our lives that we cannot, that are just like struggle to find harmony with. Um, these are great teachers. These traumas are teachers to move into a different space where it's like, I don't want that shit anymore. And now I'm going to align myself to what is in alignment for me. Like what does embodying what I learned from that look like? So, so yes, plant medicine, meditation. Plant medicine helped with the programming part. Meditation helped with the discipline, and the trauma was the catalyst to move into alignment. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability and just, being so open to share these things, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important because we're all trying to make sense of what the fuck's going on,
Right. Right.
and um, we also haven't been talking about these shit. Like we haven't been talking about this stuff,
Right.
and now it's like, oh, I see what's going on there. Let me put two and two together. I believe fully in the human mind. All of us as our human species is incredible.
Mhm.
I can I can sit in the background and watch you do your work and observe and just learn. I can download. I think there's a breathwork person that I was watching online. I think I fell into the telekinesis rabbit hole. There are people doing telekinesis and shit like that now. And it's like, now I can see it. I'm seeing what's possible. And going back to Dr. Joe likes to use this example that of the 4 minute mile.
Okay.
All these years before the first person broke that record, no one thought it was possible. You're gonna die. Your heart's gonna stop. You're gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone finally decided, I'm gonna try.
Mm-hmm.
So that person finally does it, and that's not the incredible part. It's cool. He broke the 4 minute mile. Great. The fascinating thing about that is that it only took 2 weeks for the next person to do it. That person had to just needed to see it, to hear it, that it was possible, and then they did it. So this rounds back to our collective consciousness,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
seeing what's possible. Now we are embodying and we are being examples and mirrors for others to be like, I want to reflect that.
Mm.
And if I'm finding resistance to what I'm seeing, what is it? What let me dive in there because I'm ready to release that resistance. I'm ready to release the thing that's making me like, what the fuck? Like, let me challenge that shit. Um, and for some people it might take a little longer than others, and that's okay. It's all a process, it's a journey. And I think one thing that's important is that we as a community start to, you know, link up and communicate so that we can support each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree, and being able to create that safe space, that container, as you do, for people to see what's possible when for so many people seeing is believing, and they're able to see what they could be achieving or what so many people are already receiving when they change the way that they're perceiving the things that they see, you
It's
know?
like it's like we're giving each other like, hey, okay, so I'm gonna go back to my raver days. I was a raver, I remember like being with my group of friends, and my friends would hand me like their glasses, like they have like these like, you know, cool kaleidoscope glasses, and there were like different kinds, and they're like, hey, look at this, like look at like so you can see what I'm seeing.
Right.
Um, to see it through these lenses, it's finally,
Right.
finally, now I can see things differently. Um, my my mentor, Michaela Mama Delamico, she's been a like major in showing me what is possible when it comes to creating safe containers. Um, these containers, they're there for your support. Um, by all means, if you need to do it alone, it's cool. That's also really, that's like preferable, because now you're discovering your own like innate healing abilities, your own strength, you're remembering again. But there are also guides and facilitators to help with this process, and it's nice to talk about it. Um, Talking and being witnessed, that's healing. That just, it just feels good. It feels good to be heard. This right now is so healing for me. Thank you so much, Ro. This is so healing for me.
I'm glad. I'm glad, you know. And when we're talking about supernatural abilities, I love the word supernatural because I think sometimes we gloss over that word natural, you know? It's something that's supposed to be natural, like we're coming back into the knowledge of things that have always been, you know, coming back into receiving things that we always were, that we've always been. So when it comes to these supernatural abilities and unlocking that for yourself, you said that you've gone down the telekinesis rabbit hole. So what does it feel like to tap into telekinetic, you know?
Well, I haven't personally done it. The it was like it was, I forgot what it was. I think I was like on Instagram, and I saw a comment, I saw the word telekinesis, I clicked on that person, and then I was like, oh shit, there's so much more.
Yeah.
I didn't know that this was happening out there because I've been in my own container.
Yeah.
I'm very much a proponent of everyone is going to play their role in this liberation process. And I know that my position right now is doing this inner work, because I already know that the reality is a projection of my fucking mind. So I need to be responsible for this thing. Let me do the work.
Mhm.
So I've been in my own container. Uh, Funny enough, when I first opened Breaking the Habit,
Mhm.
um, mind you, I was in an afterglow of the mushroom medicine, and the mushroom medicine is really good at assisting in connecting the dots. Yeah, because it's finding new neural network, like it's finding new pathways. So I opened the book, and I think one of the first things I read was something about like our DNA code,
Mhm.
that we only express about not even 2% of what's possible with our genetic code.
Not
So our
even.
not even 2%. They say for a long time, people like working in genetics, especially those trying to figure out like disease, let me remove the genetic codes for disease, like they're trying to do all kinds of stuff. Um, Turns out, uh, they call it junk DNA. We only use less than 2%, and the rest of it is junk. Well, truth is, it's not junk. We just haven't learned how to tap into these genetic codes. These genetic codes produce proteins that become my nose, that becomes my sense of smell, that becomes, it can become something positive, or it can also become something like illness.
Mm.
Maybe I'm experiencing major stressors in my life. My brain is releasing, you know, cortisol, adrenaline, and it's, you know, connecting to these different parts of my body that are producing the enzymes, and um, the code is saying, hey, there's stress here, keep producing this protein.
Mhm.
And that protein is could be linked to genetic diseases.
Oh.
You know, like these different things that are also within us. So, you know, you're feeling stress. Okay, so you start experiencing the illnesses, you start experiencing the stuff. But in the same way that we can signal our DNA for like illness,
Mm.
we can also signal it for health.
Mm.
And so it's learning how to signal it for health. And health is just like a health, well-being, illnesses, like that's just like a good like uh palatable model that I can share, right? We've all experienced like being sick and wanting some type of like healing. Maybe some of us experience like chronic pain or something like that. So healing is like a good like meet point.
Mm-hmm.
But this also goes for so many other things.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am, this afterglow, reading in this book about DNA, and bing, oh shit, we don't even know what our species is fully capable of.
Mm.
We don't know what abilities we could literally be like. It's not mutating our DNA, it's already in our DNA.
Right. Right.
It's already in there.
In there.
And
Yeah.
and I think this is this is where like I think the conspiracy about like television and things that we see came in for me, that I was like, oh, so that's why we get to see like what's possible on TV, but we think that that's separate from us.
Mm.
It's all possible.
Mm.
What abilities do you want to tune into?
Right.
I can specifically, actually, I know three particular abilities that when I was a child, I used to tell myself, like, I know, like, I used to say, like, you know, maybe superheroes aren't real because, you know, I see it on TV, superheroes aren't real. But if I could have supernatural abilities, I want to ask God for this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm seeing it come to fruition. It's not in how I thought. Like, you know, you think like, oh, I'm getting poor, like I'm gonna get bitten by a spider, and then I'm gonna have like these like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not like that at all. There's layers and levels, and it's everyone has their own gifts. What
Mm-hmm.
do you want to tap into? You know in your heart the shit you always wanted to do. Same thing for a person who like always wanted to do music and has like this voice, and then they just don't do the voice thing. They don't use their ability, and it's like, no, that's one of your gifts. You can lean into that and lead with that, and you trust that that's what your expression is supposed to be in this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah. Wow. Do you remember, Yasmin? Do you remember the three that you had from childhood? Those three?
yes, I do. um at the time I said I wanted to read minds.
Okay.
Necessarily reading minds. I wanted to be able to read minds and control it, because you know, see like because I saw people on, you know, like, well, not people, I saw these movies and stuff, and like
Like.
they go crazy because they can hear everyone's thoughts, and it's
Mhm.
like, actually now we're seeing that telepathy is a real thing.
Mhm.
Communication. There's a consent piece too, because we're each. It's not like I can just invade your space and know what you're like thinking. No,
Mhm.
there's a consent piece, and now we're seeing things like telepathy come through. And what does that look like in developing that? In fact, there is a community in South America that's removed from, you know, modern society. They're still like in the mountains. I forgot what their tribe was. I'm gonna look this up to make sure I know. Um, but they can communicate with each other in from long distances. Like someone's out hunting and they need to communicate something. They have like a means of communication. Yeah. So that was one of the things I asked. I think the other thing I asked for was the ability to control time,
Okay.
the ability to control time in its fullness.
Mhm.
That's one of the things I asked for, and I'm seeing that express itself. Uh, I have
How,
released.
how was that expressing?
Okay, so this is an interesting thing. So one of the things I deprogrammed just innately
Mm,
was this need to like keep track of time.
mm,
At least at least with the system that's in place. Let me
mm.
put it that way, right? So we have this 12-hour, what is it, sorry, 24-hour day, 12-year cycle, right? I divested. And in my work meditating and working with the medicine, that time concept is not, it's not for me.
Mm, mm.
It's not for me. In fact, that time concept is built off of some pretty like stupid shit.
Okay.
Like I think like the months of the year don't even line up with their words. Like September, October, November, October, like they don't, like the numbers don't match up with the name. And then we've got a month for Julius Caesar in there and a month for Augustus.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that,
So it's archaic.
yeah, not even archaic. Um, it's not my, okay, here. This is how I'll put it. It's not my ancestral timekeeping.
Got it.
I
Got it.
think there is a timekeeping. The timekeeping is important to see the cycles of the moon, see the cycles of my rhythm of my body, see the cycles of the season. These are natural ways of keeping time. If anything, that would be archaic, right? Like, because it's ancient.
Hmm.
But the current system that we have in place is there to assist the system in monetizing our physical bodies,
Mm.
to capitalism,
Oh,
um, to enslave my physical body.
okay.
Yeah, these times are there. These time is so like, oh, gotta finish it by this time, gotta finish by this time. Urgency. I
Hmm.
think what I think Toy Smith said this. Urgency is a tool for our for the masters to control. Oh, I
Mm,
have to keep up with this. I have to keep up with this person. I have to keep up with the Joneses. I
mm.
have to work to make money and I have to, it's like a weird relationship of time and value and my physical being. It just doesn't feel right.
Okay.
Right.
So kind of like the fear of missing out, what people talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be, that's one layer of it. That's definitely one layer of it.
But
But
like talk about the calendar and that sense of urgency, that sense of like Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
hey, this season is coming, this blah blah blah. And it's like I'd rather honor a natural cycle of um, things to experiences, my life to just emerge on its own.
Mm,
Um, oh, you have to have a kid by this day. You have to have a job. You have to graduate college. It's all like on a, hey, you have to meet these things. And then we don't meet them. And it's like, fuck.
mm.
And then turns out you meet people who did all the things and they're not happy.
Wow. Yeah.
They're not happy.
Yeah.
So going back to the time thing,
Mm,
um, I had to isolate myself.
mm,
I had to deprogram my rhythm, honor what my body wanted to do, listen to my body. Oh, I want to sleep in today. Okay, I'm gonna sleep in today. I did a lot of work to release that need for control. Yeah. And then now I find that I'm still learning how to deepen my understanding and how to control it fully. I don't think there's any control. If anything, I trust.
mm,
And so I can be with you and in this moment and expand time now.
mm.
Fuck what time it is. Fuck how long. Fuck the hour. Fuck the whatever. Now I can expand time and be like, oh, oh, it only took us an hour to talk about this thing. Oh, it only like, what? I felt like I was with you for like 3 hours. This is where we start to bend time. This is
Yeah.
where we start to bend time. Um, Mushroom medicine, when you go into that, like there's like a, it's I don't know how to explain it. When you're inside, when you're in there, like the time thing, like oh, it feels good to let go of.
It's
It's like,
timeless.
yeah,
Okay.
there's like this release. There's this release.
Mm,
And so it's still developing. I
okay.
okay, so I'm 32 now, I'm 32 now. And I've been doing, at least diving into this work for the past three. So
Hmm
28, so let's say 28, 29.
hmm
I think I think things develop. It's a muscle. A person's voice, you can learn to sing.
Yeah.
It takes time for that muscle to build up. So these are just like beginning understandings about how these abilities I wanted finally are coming into fruition. It's not how I thought it would be, but it's actually pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so now I can, if I wanted to travel in time, hey, there's a way to do that. You
Yeah.
tap into meditation, and you can travel forward in time. You can
Mm.
like you can use these medicines. There's like all these kinds of entry points to experience these abilities. And so once we see someone else be able to do it, now we can learn also, okay, I'm gonna put the concepts together. I believe in the human species. I can just give you a few tidbits and you're gonna piece it all together. You're gonna piece it all together and like, oh shit, that's possible.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's what's
that's
happening.
you giving people the resources, but also allowing them to tap into their own resourcefulness. You know.
Hmm. That's the major thing about um, being a steward.
Mm.
I think that at the forefront right now of my practice is this understanding that like I'm not doing any healing. I'm doing healing for myself, but I'm not healing you. I'm not doing any of that. You are doing that. It is
Mm.
you. And to support the person in getting to those realizations, that's how I felt Breaking the Habit, this book, was for me. It helped me break those habits and say, hey, there's this concept over here with biology, and there's this concept over here with quantum physics,
Mm.
and just seeing the two things, not even like I'm connecting the dots. And so being able to assist others, that's really more of the role I play when it comes to this work.
Yeah.
Um, because only you know what's for you. You know what you're going through. You know what you've been through. Like, we're just here to support each other on this process. And if anything, I'm learning just as much as you are.
Bless, bless, I feel it. And you know, you were speaking about Silicon Valley, and I love how I would have never known this had you not connected those dots for me. Because even Steve Jobs, I remember somebody said, he said, we cannot connect the dots looking forward, but we always connect them looking backward. And it's like that's how we connect the dots. Like hindsight is always 2020. We seem to have
Hmm.
perfect vision when we reflect. When we're in that reflection, it's a deeper connection. So in that introspection, it's like I would have never even known that people were in Silicon Valley were using psilocybin to
That
help them connect those dots till you did that for me, you know?
it's crazy how this understanding came about for me
Yeah.
because it is exactly that process.
Mm.
Um, I think it was back in like 2012 or 2013. I was on Facebook
Mm.
scrolling, and I saw this ad that said all the rage in Silicon Valley, nootropics.
Mm.
Like, what's going on? What are they doing over there? Like Silicon Valley, they're making some money. Like, what's going on? This is before I was ever sitting with plant medicine in a with context. It was more about like I'm having fun. I love to go to this concert and blah blah blah. Like I was in the youth portion of my relationship with the medicine, building that bond. Um, and so anyway, I see this ad. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, let me Google what are nootropics?
Right.
And I search it, and it's like, oh, vitamins for the brain. I'm like, oh, I don't need to buy from this person. I don't need to click on this ad. I can go to Sprouts and get some vitamins for my brain, vitamin, like whatever. I'm going to get the nourishment I need for my brain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fast forward, uh, I think we were still like towards the end of quarantine or just got out of quarantine. It was like winter time. I was working in a dispensary, and one of my patients connected me with one of our friends, Gerald. Yeah, hit it
Shout out
out.
to Harold. Shout out to Based in the Plants. Yes. Hmm.
And so at this point, I had been working with the medicine very, very deeply, very, very deeply. Um, Nights I spent just nom, nom, nom. And so I reach out to Gerald and I'm like, oh, hey, I would love to check out your menu. So he sends his menu. Right at the top, nootropics.
Right.
And I was like, this is what they've been doing. They've been doing mushrooms. That's what this is. No, it's not no vitamin. Like I realized like, oh shit, makes so much sense. And at this point, I had already learned also about really sitting with this medicine intentionally.
Mm.
Very, very intentionally. Finding locking down your intentions while working with this medicine, especially microdosing. Oh, that's how you can actually measure your marker points, where I implement what I'm learning, etc. So yeah, in the same way, I looked back and I was like, oh shit, that's what they were trying to reach out to me a long time ago. I just didn't, I hadn't put the things together. So now it makes sense.
Right. Right. Yeah. And
There's
you
this
know, and
movie called
mhm.
go ahead, go ahead.
Movie.
I got a
What
call. Go ahead.
what
Okay.
happened? There was a movie.
So there was this movie that I kind of watched after that. I think it was while I was pregnant. It's called Magic something, Magic Collective, Magic something. And it's about the company that came before like that invented the iPhone basically. And then Steve
Oh.
Jobs was working for them, and then he like branched off. That didn't work out for them. They
Mhm.
were the first ones to bring the idea into like, but they were all, you can tell all of them had to have been tripping at some point. Hippies up in Height, Ash Street, whatever, like going to Burning Man or whatever. This was that they were already doing that back then. And so this movie is a great tap in to see like, oh, so this is what was going on in their minds. And they were working with this medicine, and now I understand why it's popped off over there.
Mhm.
Makes
Ma-
sense.
Makes sense. Yes. Yes. Oh man, there's so much to digest already. Like you've given us so much, and I love just how exuberant, excited, and enthusiastic. You transfer that energy very well. You know, I have to say that I really do enjoy learning as well, and I enjoy having these dances of dialogues that we have with each other because they're so explorative, but also so expansive. You know, and
Yeah.
I feel every conversation I've come away even more. You know, like I've uncovered something else that I didn't know was already there. So thank you for that. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Um, yeah, it's been beautiful. These conversations need to be had.
Mm.
They need to be had. They're very important. This is how we, help the collective.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for our collective liberation. And I'm excited for the many more conversations to come. This is my first live in how long? Like I went on a major hiatus, and it felt good to come into the space with you.
Yeah, great to see you back. You know, likewise. And you know, before we go, there was one other. So you touched on the two abilities, but there was one more. So you said the reading the minds, there was the controlling the time, but what was that third one from your childhood?
I can't remember at this moment.
Okay,
We'll have
that'll
to do
be next
that
one.
next time.
Awesome. We'll tap in again with that. We'll tap in.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Excited to be on with you again. Soon. Again, soon. I liked this live.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And, you know, thank you to everyone who joined. And Yasmin, for anyone who's never met you before, who they don't know about you or your business, your calling, your community, you know, the collective services that you have for people, would you let people know, you know, what you have available and where you'd like for them to go to find that?
Yes. For anyone following right now, you can follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM. Just for a vibe check, it's like just gotta be safe right now. I am a mother, and working in the space of plant medicines can be very so just wanted to say that I work with plant medicines. I have a microdosing container where I'm with you with for this journey to support and to do integration together to assist you in what are your goals? This could be, hey, I don't want to be on pharmaceuticals anymore. This could be ancestral healing. This could be, womb work. It doesn't matter what it is. I've got a lot of information that I can share and that we can tap in with. Uh, but yes, I have a microdosing container and hopefully soon more events. Event
Hmm.
courting has always been my thing, but it's only now that things are starting, all the puzzle pieces are coming together to express themselves. So, yeah, just tap in with me. And then as soon as things are popping off, at least you have the information and you're already connected. Thank
Awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. Yasmin, thank you for assisting and thank you for existing. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day, great Friday, and a great weekend. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye
Take care.
bye.